He really does do bad movies, Neil Breen, if you ever look him up on YouTube. And you can watch his entire films, and they are really, like, they start to melt your brain. They're not so good, they're awesome. They're just so bad, they're awesome. They're so bad, they're bad. And they're brain melting. Yeah.
Like awkward scenes of him making out with his leading lady. It's just so damn awkward. And, like, these special effects are bad.
Yeah, he's super ugly too. It's really ugly, and he gets these really sexy ladies, of course, and these squinty little eyes and stuff. Super squinty eyes. Hello and welcome to the QUACKCAST. This is QUACKCAST number 429. I am Ozone Ocean, and with me are the two great people, my two fantastic compatriots here, Tan Serene. Hi, Tans.
Hello.
And Baines. Hi, Baines.
Hello.
So we're talking about bad endings, and well, when fans can be right, basically. But yeah, bad endings. But before we get into that, I have to introduce the featured comic. Quai didn't do the featured comic this week. I featured the comic this week.
It was me. I did it.
It was me all along, me. And the comic is completely unrelated. It's a weird title. So take it away, me, with completely unrelated. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and my feature for the week was completely unrelated. That's the title, not a description. Noika is an unusual lady, slightly draconic, but she looks human enough. She lives with her best friend Ebony, a vamp, who also happens to be a vampire, a very slutty one. And then comes along young Holly, a red-headed lesbian, to be their lodger. Along the way, they meet handsome Spike, a sometime hobo and now a sexy bartender. Together, they make a pretty good crowd, sharing their ups and downs, but not their secrets. Completely Unrelated is a sort of a slice-of-life, semi-dramatic relationship-based sitcom. That's a good broad description, but it undersells the comedy aspect. It's a very funny comic. Ebony is my favourite character. She completely owns her salaciously ridiculous behaviour. She's lusty, lascivious, callous, snobby, and hilarious. This is a long-running comic that has been going on since at least 2011. In that time, the art has improved a lot, so expect some rough work at the beginning and great art in the more recent pages. The art is done in pencil with digital inking and colour. The writing is consistently good throughout. So yeah, I hope you enjoy Completely Unrelated. I did. It's a good comic to get into, and you have a lot of pages to get through. A couple of hundred, so you can go through there without sort of being left and high and dry. You've got quite a lot to get through and enjoy. So I hope you like it. Completely Unrelated. It's a great comic. Yeah, rated T. By Delicious Trifle. Good on you, Delicious Trifle. You've done a fantastic job. Okay, read it. And that was the featured comic, Completely Unrelated. Okay, so after that we've got the music from Gun Wallace, and this week he's given us a theme to a comic by Barry Corbett called Embrace the Pun. So, Gun Wallace, in his own words, of the great man himself, sax and violins. It's the musical pun as a theme tune. Well, I didn't actually get that when he wrote that to me. Even when I wrote that down, sax and violins, now I get it. Sax and violence. Sex and violence. Oh my god. Moron. I'm an absolute moron. I did not get it. Anyway, So the music, I would describe it as the measured, stable regularity of the violin and quiet percussion are contrasted starkly against the wild wanderings of the jazzy saxophone as it stomps into the room, kicks over the carefully arranged furniture, and pees on a pot plant. So, take it away, Gumwallis, with Embrace the Pun. And that was the featured song. Gumwallis, thank you for your sex and violence. I will just... I never forgive you for that damn pun, you bastard. All right. Next up, we have our topic. When I was originally going to title this "When Toxic Fans Are Right," but that has other kind of connotations. So we're just going to talk about mainly bad endings. So in our video, our Patreon video that our lovely Patreons have paid for and you got to see us talk about, we mainly talked about the Game of Thrones ending. And my thrust there was like, a lot of viewers found that ending to be disappointing and bad. And you sort of get the rumblings that the writers are sort of justifying that, saying, yeah, but it was kind of mentioned if you paid attention, or you're just idiots, or people who support the writers might go, yeah, but you expect too much, and you want this and you want that, and you're just entitled and you're toxic. But the reality is, if most of your viewership finds something disappointing or bad, then perhaps you did it badly. Perhaps you did a bad job, and us as creators have to own that. If most of our audience thinks something is bad, then perhaps it is. Perhaps we're not always the clever geniuses we think we are. And endings are the hardest things to do, so we shouldn't feel, like we need to support and rationalize when we get an ending wrong. Because I think, 80% maybe of endings, I don't know, maybe it's not that high, are bad. It's so easy to do a bad ending. It's hard to do a good ending. So it's not something that's not typical. So anyway, that was my jumping off point for this, that us as writers need to own it when we do it wrong. And that doesn't mean we should only listen to the fans and only give them things that they expect. That's absolutely not what we're saying at all, in any way. Because we, as writers, as creators, and especially people like who do the Game of Thrones, who are servicing like hundreds of thousands of viewers, obviously they're not going to do fan endings to their work. That's stupid to suggest or think. But the thing is, you've got to do endings that obviously work within the reality of the framework that you've set up, but also don't come across to people as being obviously crap. Especially if you're putting that much work into something and creating that level of fan devotion and support for something that's like a multi-million-dollar property. You owe it to people to do a good job, to try and land the ending well. So yeah, it's possible for good writers to do bad endings. I'm sorry, but
yes,
and for all of us as well. We obviously Tance, I, and Baines. We are not like Game of Thrones writers, whatever. We're not, but we're all creators, and all of you guys who are listeners as well. I'm sure a lot of you guys are creators as well. We have to own it when we do a bad job, and endings are hard, and we just have to admit that.
And the thing is, another thing, like if you antagonize the people that tell you that you are doing a bad job, and I'm saying this having gone through all the stages of dealing with people that have told me that I didn't do a good job with something, Okay. I have had people tell me that, your comic sucks in various ways. And I have tried to not, tell them, well, yeah, and you're a bastard. Or, which would be not a good thing. Like, don't do that, people, even if it hurts. I have tried to argue my case, and in some cases, I think that I was right, and in some other cases, that they were right.
Yeah.
It can't not be the case, because there will be someone who is better than you in something, always. So, yeah, the thing that I hate is that usually what they do, knowing that they are in a position of power, being that they have millions available to them, they have access to, talent that we can only dream of, to get an artistic team going and doing things in certain ways. Well, they then turn to those people, the audience, saying that you didn't do this as a good job. You didn't do a good job, period. And they say, well, if you don't like, do your own series. And the response to this, and they did say it, the response to this is, you know what, give me these millions, give me the creative team, and I will write a better ending to freaking Game of Thrones. Easy. Even if I go and do all the said tropes of absolutely everything, I will do a better ending than this. So, the sense, what I'm trying to say is that usually the creator says that the critic is the one that cannot create anything, and then the critic shouldn't have a voice. But they should, because they are the consumers. They are the ones that eat the food you provide. So if the food sucks, they have taste buds. So they will say what they are feeling. So
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, any creative project is a contract between the audience and the creators.
Exactly.
It can't exist without either one of those things. That's just a fact.
Exactly.
We're both equal partners, really. I mean, you might say, it's slightly tilted towards the creators, because obviously if they didn't create, there would be nothing for us to consume. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So we're not quite equal partners. But for something as big as Game of Thrones, it so happens that, the audience becomes so huge that it really, the balance shifts, I think, towards the viewers, So, especially if you've got that many people. Obviously, if there's that many similar reactions to something, they must have a point. It's like, when you hear someone's been divorced about 15 times or whatever, and you think, well, hang on, they can't all have been crazy, your partners. You must be a bastard. That might be a more realistic, scenario. That might be the reason why you've been divorced so many times, because you're just a dick. So.
Yeah. I think the backlash would have been less if they said something along the lines of, for X and Y reasons, we chose this ending, although we recognize that it might not make the cut for most of people, but we chose this ending for this and this reason. I think that if they said that they actually made an executive choice to finish this in a subpar manner, people would be confused, I think, that they would accept it more than, no, it's a genius ending and you are an idiot for not liking it.
You just don't get it, man. You just don't
Yeah.
get it. Well, I mean, there are other examples of this. I haven't seen the Battlestar Galactica reboot, but people said it was, quite disappointing in the end for whatever reason. But say Mass Effect, I have consumed. I got into that, which is a great game series, and that occurred over quite a few years. Had 3 parts to it. And the ending of that was quite disappointing. And yeah, you got that same kind of thing. Oh, you just didn't get it and blah, blah, blah. In the end, the reality was they ran out of money, they ran out of time, as always happens in video games. And they were just trying to justify it by, oh, you didn't get it. And the same, another thing exactly the same as that is Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is... people love that series for various reasons, but the ending was like completely an about face from what the series is about. You know, there's action and there's huge robots and stuff, and the ending is all like, you know, 2 episodes of a psychological kind of stuff with this kid in a blank room. And the reality isn't that the writers were so clever and they wanted to subvert stuff. They ran out of money to finish the series, and that's all they could afford to do. And yeah, so that's why it had that particular ending. But you still had people trying to justify it, saying, oh my God, they were geniuses. You know, they're amazing. They did this and they did that. But yeah. Sometimes there are those kind of reasons. It's not necessarily being a bad writer. It's just sort of, well, not a bad writer, but or writing a bad ending. It's trying to make the most of your limited resources, but still, you should be honest about that and tell people, look, we just didn't have the resources. We didn't have the time. Yeah, that was the reason. It's not that you don't get it. Yeah. It's just that we did the best we could with what we had. And then you'll understand it as a writer. I mean, as an audience member.
Especially if they do something.
You still might have your complaints.
Exactly. Along those lines, like, okay, we forced the characters to do certain things because we didn't have the time to develop it, but that's how it will end. It will be better developed in the books, for example.
Yeah.
I think that would be somewhat begrudgingly more accepted, instead of them needing to be off the internet for a few days.
I mean, even if people heard that and then said, well, why didn't you extend this for another season or 2? You have the audience, you have the channel, you have HBO, and specifically Game of Thrones. Like you were free to continue. But I totally agree with you, actually, because if they were, what would be the word? Like conciliatory, or if they were sort of like explaining themselves and like, you kind of take the fire out of the backlash. Yeah. Even if people are still disappointed and have a counter argument, it's like, well, it's hard to be mad at someone who's kind of like sort of apologetic.
Yeah.
How about, what was his name? Joel Schumacher, I think. The guy that made that Batman with the suit that had the nipples.
Joel Schumacher. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry for the Greek pronunciation of his name. And he came out and said, I'm really sorry for this movie.
Yeah.
Nobody hates him. And it's a cult classic now. So there you go.
Like Neil Breen is a cult classic.
Oh, yeah, we were going to talk about Neil Breen.
Or maybe you like Tony, what's his name?
Wiseau. Wiseau.
Yeah, Wiseau. Yeah. I said Tommy. It was a different time, though. Like Batman and Robin is long enough ago that it wasn't, the internet was not what it is now, and the reaction is instant, and like so many people, I mean, everyone is online. You're getting this instant kind of feedback, instant backlash, all this kind of stuff. Years were able to pass before Joel Schumacher could come out and say, yeah, I'm sorry, I ruined Batman.
Yes,
and George Clooney has said the same thing. Then it's kind of funny, and
I still think they should have put nipples on Batgirl's suit. I mean, I'm so disappointed by that.
Yeah, I mean, they had nipples on the boys.
Exactly. So... How are the baby bats gonna,
Yeah. the thing with bad endings and the thing with good endings is that, and I also said that in in the video for our patrons, where I also admit that M was right and I was wrong in our estimation of where the thing was going. So you can, be our patron and go see that. Me admitting that I'm wrong about something.
You gotta pay for that. Yeah.
But no nipples in that QUACKCAST though either.
Moment.
So you won't see that. I'm sorry.
So the thing is that the ending, even if it's not what the audience likes, should obey the rules that have been set up by the premise of the entire show or film or whatever, or literature, whatever it is. They have to obey the rules. They have to obey the spirit of the show. Game of Thrones generally is all about consequence. If you make the wrong choice, you pay for the consequence. Period. Everybody has that, and nobody is exempt except in the final season. Some would argue in earlier seasons as well, but not as much. So when you break this fundamental rule where everybody is actually so focused on what every character does, because consequences are dire if they misstep, if they make this one mistake that is going to be fatal, then you throw them out of the immersion and disappoint them because the stakes aren't there anymore. It's like autopilot has kicked in, and nothing matters anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's you take people out of the reality, out of the immersion as well. Unfortunately, if you break the rules of your world, if you make things less contingent.
I remember a lot of conversation about the show Dexter a few years ago, and people talking online. There was one of the major writers left the show, and that kind of coincided with another guy kind of getting more authority. And I won't name the person, I won't call that, but it's a person who I've followed a little bit and has been disappointing audiences for a few years. But no offense, I'm sure he's a lovely guy and very wealthy and not listening to this podcast, but Dexter really went downhill. And I remember reading an article about, or a comment rather, from the writer who left, who said the show broke their contract with the audience.
Yeah.
Fascinating comment. I didn't really fully understand it. But meaning, once I sort of looked into it a bit or whatever, like a series is making certain promises. Certain expectations are set up. Maybe not literal expectations, but along the lines of what Tans is saying, like thematic, what a series is, and what it's supposed to be about, who it's supposed to be about too. There's literal things, but and the show took a weird turn. And I remember comments when you hear comments about endings saying things like that don't fit what the show, like they just feel wrong. And you're like, they don't get it. They don't understand their own show. Like they lost the lost the plot.
They lost the theme as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Lost the theme. Yeah.
Which is quite disappointing because you, as a viewer of something, you become invested in it. Obviously, you build up
you want to see it end.
A mental model of how the world works, and when people just mess that up for no reason, then all that investment is wasted.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. You feel there's this feeling of us in your mouth, in a sense. And not what this sort of this sort of thing. I remember there are good endings as well.
Yes,
series and films. Now I'm so still frustrated by the Game of Thrones ending that I'm trying
fixated
to
on
get,
that one.
to shift gears now, the good endings. And recently I saw this this YouTube analysis of Minority Report. If you have seen the film with
Yeah,
what's his name?
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, yes. And I actually enjoyed the ending in that one.
Oh, really? Because to me, that was... I don't know. To me, I really hated that.
Really?
Because
Yeah,
for me, that ending was so cliche that I'd seen that so many times in things. I did. You could see that it was probably going to go that way, and the fact that it did go that way, I thought, oh my God, you can't do that. Why did you do it that way? You're just following in the same path that so many things have done. You know, you're making the bad guy, the
yeah, I
bad
know.
guy
I could
his
see
boss,
that coming.
and
Yeah,
oh,
agreed. I could see that coming as well, but I was okay with it for two reasons. One, it felt like it was the choice. You had two options: either everybody basically dies and the system continues, or they dismantle the system, they tear it down, and they live more or less happily ever after. So, but whatever they chose, they didn't rape the premise.
yeah, it
That
was
was
within the premise. Yeah, it's a cliche
yes.
that was
I was
inevitable.
okay. I was okay with it.
Yeah.
When, for example, there's another good ending that I didn't like. It is a good ending, which is the spoilers, I guess, for a, I don't know, 30, 40-year-old movie, the Parallax case, which is this um, sort of cloak and dagger, the government is your enemy kind of movie, where the main character is certain that there is going to be a murder plot against the president of the United States. And you followed his efforts paying attention to this from the authority attention, if I remember it right. And through these efforts, you see, all the fascist tentacles of the system, going in and out and everything. And it's a stellar movie, and I highly recommend it as a political drama because it's a political commentary. And in the end, he realizes that he has been basically controlled in the sense that they presented him with the stimuli and the experiences that he would react to in certain ways so that he would be at a specific point in time in a specific place where the president would be, because he tries to kill the president after everything. He never gets near the president, but he ends up in a place where also the actual killer is, and the president gets murdered, and he is also murdered as the killer that got shot by the security of the president. And the world and the film ends with the world considering him the killer of the president, whereas it was actually a plot because there were some other interests behind the whole thing.
So basically Lee Harvey Oswald, JFK kind of
Yeah,
conspiracy.
yeah, that sort of thing, but in a much more elegant way, I would say. And you hate the ending because the character is very sympathetic, and it's an everyman story in the sense that he could be just about any person, but you know that he doesn't have a chance against people that are this powerful and employ this many people to do certain things. And the thing is that you know that he's probably going to die, and you hope that the movie will show you that he lives and that he beats the system. He doesn't. and I hated that, but it was a good ending.
Yeah,
And
it
a
works
powerful.
within the reality of the film that it's set up. So yeah, you as an audience can't say, "Oh, that's bad writing."
Yes, exactly.
It's just something that wasn't within expectations, but it's still a good ending. So that's really what we're talking about. That it's not that it's like sour grapes. You didn't end it the way we wanted to, so it's bad. It's not that. It's
Right.
bad because it's bad. That's
it's not a thing of happy or sad or whatever. Yeah. It's like
it just doesn't work.
Exactly. The thing is, the viewers of Game of Thrones, for example, I'm always going back, actually proved that they weren't looking for the happy ending or, their favorite character being the one that gets the fairy tale ending or anything. When, in the end of season 6, Jon Snow gets murdered, dies, and people were absolutely shocked with this.
But they lived.
Nobody said it was bad writing.
Yeah. They
Nobody said it was bad
because
writing.
their favorite Ned Stark had already been killed anyway, so they knew what to expect pretty much. And so that was a thing. Within that universe, people had already gotten to terms with it. It's not going to be a story where you can follow a character all the way through. So they knew that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people were actually, even though they like and continued to like Jon Snow, were disappointed that he was brought back to life. Why? That wasn't because they are, bloodthirsty. Because that was also an excuse that made the rounds. Like, what's wrong with you that you don't want him to live again? That sort of thing. But, it was an alarm that the rules of the game may be broken. But the rules of the premise might not always hold for certain situations.
Yeah.
That's why people were disappointed.
Bring him back, but you don't bring Ned Stark back, or you don't bring this character back. Well, speaking of good endings, there was a story that I really liked. I think it was called Night Lamp. It was by Jack Vance, who is one of my favorite all-time American writers, well, favorite sci-fi writers in general. And in this particular story, it was... I didn't want to finish reading the book. I literally did not want to finish it, and I put it off like for about 2 months or whatever, because the way things seemed to be going was like I could see the ending, and it was going to be awful, and it was going to be not awful as in bad writing. It was going to be awful for the characters, and it was like going to be a really bad kind of thing, and it was just going to be a gut punch. And because everything was pointing towards that happening, because that was the kind of story it was, and I just couldn't bring myself to read it. And then eventually I did. I forced myself to read it, and it completely upended my expectations and went in a different way. Not making it like a perfect ending for the characters, making everything happy. It was just like went in an unexpected direction, and it turned out so well because of that. Completely within the rules of the story, and everything like fitting as puzzle pieces. Everything foreshadowed, and everything like being, it fitting, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But just went in a way that worked and went well. So yeah, it's another example of a good ending, but being an unexpected ending, but still remaining perfectly within the framework of the world. So you can do that.
Oh, absolutely. There's this other thing that I suspect is a trend in general, is that if in the whole theory, speculation sort of culture that is going on among the fans of a series or a show or whatever, they seem to know, to get it, where it's going. The showrunners might change the ending, just subvert expectations.
Yeah.
No, you didn't guess correctly because, we are the master geniuses that, thought of this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work when that happens. You have to let your audience, if your audience guesses where you are taking it, good for them.
Yeah.
But that's where the story is going.
Exactly. Every neophyte webcomic, and not everyone, but a lot of us find that out for ourselves. We find out that, audiences are smart and they get things, and, they're really smart. Audiences aren't idiots. Often audiences can be very bright and they can work out what's going to happen. And if you're going to second guess that, or if you're going to read their comments and think, oh, I'm going to fix you. I'm going to change the ending now. That's what I was going to do, you bastard. But now I have to change it. That's a bad way to go. Yeah. You should, whatever, just reward them. Just go for it. Don't degrade your vision by doing that, or try and psych the audience out by going a completely different direction. Whatever. If they were smart enough to guess it, that doesn't matter. That will make them happy if they see it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It seems to be where...
Go on, Bates.
No, go on. I'll say that.
Okay. I hate to be predictable and bring up Star Wars, but I'll try to make it short. That seems to be the approach that he took with The Last Jedi. Was sort of a reaction to people on Twitter or something, or people on social media who were predicting where everything was going to go and how it was going to work and all these theories or whatever, to sort of take everything and flip it and make it unpredictable, but not in the sense that, wow, the midpoint and then the ending and where it goes is very unpredictable, these big moments. It was like every scene will defy predictability. You won't be able, and logic. Yeah, you won't be able to predict it because everything is off of what you think it would be.
Yeah.
And it seemed to be more like it was talking to you as the audience rather than keeping the integrity of a story with some surprises. It was sort of like,
exactly.
I mean, that movie seemed to be talking directly to the audience in ways that it's like why would this character say that to that character? Like, they're just talking to us. It's like really like sort of ham-fisted. And I know this is a controversial opinion, but yeah.
Should have pulled a Deadpool and have them just turn to the camera and talk to the audience and let the showrunner get it off his chest so that we could move on.
By the way, movies with great endings right there, both of those.
Yeah.
I watched the ending of Deadpool like multiple times. I just like watching. I like the movie Deadpool 2, but I just watched the ending. Like, it's so damn good.
Yeah,
perfect.
I wasn't a fan of Deadpool 2 in that I just thought it's too much violence for the point of violence, but it did have a good ending, a really good ending.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's great, and it's happy and sad. It's a little roller coaster, that ending.
It's got all the endings you can have, which was the point.
It's got everything.
Yeah, and I'm thinking another good ending that at least I like a lot was the ending of Coco. If you have seen the animated movie.
No, I haven't seen it.
I highly recommend it. I think it's an excellent piece of animation and story writing, and everything is really, really good in this movie. So I'm not going to spoil it, but the point is that at least from the ending of the first act, you know some things are going to happen. They are, in a sense, telegraphed. But even if it's unintentional, whatever the case is, you know that this is going to happen. What you don't know is how you're going to get there. how this is going, the reveal, how the reveal is going to happen, and you don't really know the end resolution, how they're going to package it. And the way that they do it is in complete accordance to the rules of the setting that they have. And it's very touching. You know that you called it, quote unquote, and it's very rewarding and doesn't matter. One thing that you don't expect that also happens is very good and subverts expectations. It also is within, as I said, it doesn't break any rules. It's a beautiful movie. It's balanced. It's very sweet. The ending is very sweet without being sugary. If you know what I'm saying, it's nice. Good for kids, good for adults.
Okay.
So that's a good.
Right. Is that a Pixar movie? Is that like a 2D animated?
I think it was a Pixar movie. I think so.
Good, man.
It's
okay, like Up, yeah. Well, that's Pixar. Yeah, they're amazing. They're amazing. Mm-hmm. The writers groups and story groups they put together. They're just incredible. They're the way their endings deliver almost every movie is just. I mean,
they are. Yeah, Up is a good one.
Tip your hat to them. They're amazing. Up is amazing. Yeah.
That's
way back to Toy Story. It's fantastic ending too, even on a smaller scale. So it kind of gives you everything.
Yeah,
it gives you everything. Ratatouille delivers. I mean, endings will like the thing of surprise, subverting expectations. It's also like it makes you think about life in a different way when it's done right. It sort of stays with you if it's done well. Like, man, there are books and even short stories sometimes that just they stay with me, and like I think about them. I try to like tell a short story to someone, and I just start crying.
Yeah,
because it's like I don't know why. It's like a magic trick or something. It's like, well, I don't know how this got to me. It's something to do with theme and like sticking to that theme, and it's subtle, but it's like it works on you.
Yeah.
Gotta love that, man. Nothing beats a great ending.
And endings are hard to do, but it's not hard to stick within the rules of your world.
Yes.
That's not the hard part. So
I also have to say, just because
you can do a good ending, a solid ending, just by being it's in a mechanical way, just like looking at what you've promised, and a great ending, not necessarily, but yeah, you can have a solid ending, have some satisfaction to it, just by logic,
Yeah. But I have to say, just because Bane's also like, I have to say that the ending to Coco always makes me cry as well. So there's that. And I don't cry easily in movies. Even
Pixar has a way.
Yeah. I don't know how to do it. I love it. And yeah. Okay, let's move on.
I mean, Toy Story 3 got me, man. I can't watch it with other people. It's just humiliating. It's
humiliating.
I don't know why they're doing a sequel. That seems weird to me. It's like the story seems done. But that's another subject.
It's over now.
It had a great ending.
Another thing as well, yeah. But when the audience, just to bring it back to the general subject, when the audience is saying that we hate the ending because it's not what it does a disservice to the entire show or to the entire movie, what the bleep was that? What did I just watch? Well, that means that you, as a writer, have dropped the ball somehow.
Yeah.
So I don't think there is a problem with admitting that, and even going back to course correct. Like art can be amended and made into something better. It rarely happens, but at least you should admit to it, I think.
Well, that's what gave us things like Rogue One in the Star Wars universe, you know. People eventually took on board that, you know, the prequels were shite. But Disney or whoever did it still went back and gave us Rogue One, which was the prequel that that the story deserved. It's not perfect, but certainly a lot better than what they the prequels were, the original prequels.
People really liked it. As I remember, I haven't seen it because I have to be open to watch prequels. I don't like watching prequels. I generally felt that there was a consensus that it was good and it did service to every character that was referenced there, like Darth Vader, very badass and very evil and blah blah blah.
Oh, his Darth Vader's appearance in the very end of it is perfection. It makes the thing is that is a prequel done right in that his appearance in the very end of it enhances his appearance in the original Star Wars movie. Rather than recontextualizing it, that amplifies it, which is what you want to do. Yeah, it makes it better. Now, it's not really a spoiler to say that because most people have seen the beginning of the first Star Wars movie, and in that movie, you've got all the rebels like ducking down in the corridor. And they've got their guns ready, and they're waiting for something. And the stormtroopers just blast their way in, and this black-robed figure stalks through the halls, and people sort of cower back from him. And this film, Rogue One, tells you why they're cowering back from him, because he is badass, and they give a reason for that reaction in the first film, which is perfect. Just that scene with him makes the whole film Rogue One worthwhile. Rogue One is a decent film. It's got some good stuff in it, but that part that completely carries on into the Star Wars film is just fantastic. So that's really well done, and that's an ending done well. Because even though you've got the ending of Rogue One and the events that happen, and getting the plans to the Star Destroyer and all that, and what happens to those characters, then you have that bit with the Darth Vader thing as a coda, and that is just perfect because you have that, as I've just said, that connection with the rest of the films, but also it gives it rewards your fans as well, and there's all sorts of things done right there. So that's an example of a well done ending.
Exactly.
So
watch Rogue One if you haven't seen it.
You guys, Tance, I think you did you ever see Seinfeld? I'm sure it's come up before here.
No, I haven't yet.
This where you are? Oh, okay.
No.
Oz, you must remember.
But I can stream it somewhere, I'm sure. I just haven't gotten around to it because I'm scared of getting invested in a series and then becoming more of an insomniac, trying to.
So,
I'll just say, speaking from my own
But it had a
experience-
controversial ending, right?
Oh, it did.
Final episode,
But before that, I'll just say that speaking from my own experience, Tance, you won't get invested in that. You'll get addicted. It's one you can dip in and out of. That's just how it is, and it's always been that way. You can watch a couple of episodes and go back to it later, and it's not.
Yeah, they're continuing threads, but it's pretty much a standalone sitcom.
It's not compelling, so.
Oh, okay. Then.
Now you just But Baines, you're right. The ending to that was shit, basically, because it subverted. It subverted our what we came used to in the characters. So it's a character-based sitcom, but as an audience member, you become invested in those characters. They are all your proxies. You think, oh, George, Elaine, Jerry, Kramer. All these characters are people that you like in spite of their faults and their ridiculousness. But the ending episode just paints them as callous assholes. And they just don't care, and people like convict them of a crime or something. I can't remember, but it subverted that, and no longer can you sympathize with them. It's like, screw you, audience.
Maybe that was part of it. Yeah.
Screw you. Screw everybody. It flipped off everybody.
And the main characters kind of take a back seat. Right. Yeah. Like they're kind of sitting in the courtroom for the whole episode. They're not doing as much as they usually do in the series.
Yeah.
I did like that they found a way to bring back all these supporting characters. You saw a lot of them, and like that was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm rewatching the series, and I'm on I think it's season 7, which I think now that I'm rewatching, I'm like, I think that's my favorite season. It's got like all of my favorite episodes almost are in that season. That's the season where George gets engaged at the beginning, because he and Jerry have lived their lives. They realize as children, they're not men. So they're going to make changes. They're not going to have these shallow relationships and break up for stupid reasons. So George goes out and gets engaged to an ex-girlfriend. He begs her to marry him. Jerry immediately goes back to his superficial ways. he abandons it. And George is furious because he's like, poor George is now engaged and immediately is miserable, because he's like, we had a pact, that's the running thing in that season. It's like, we had a pact, like we were going to do, and now he's stuck engaged. And so the end of that season, the engagement, it's poor George just like miserable and dreading marrying someone he realizes he doesn't even like and who doesn't like him. The end of the season, spoiler alert, the engagement ends in kind of an unexpected way. And I remember at the time, like, should I spoil it?
Yeah.
No, you cut off.
Should you spoil it? Well,
the fiance dies.
Years old. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't mind just generally putting it out there. I cannot be spoiled. I don't care if I know how something ends. I will still watch it.
Yeah, it shouldn't. Yeah,
so I don't mind.
But she dies anyway, and it's a scene of great callousness from the main characters, and George is like. And I mean, the one thing I love in the series finale later is the doctor comes back and describes George's reaction as restrained jubilation. That always makes me laugh so hard. But yeah, he's like relieved and happy, and nobody really liked her in the main characters. And but it was very weird. I remember me and all my friends talking about that scene and how awkward it was. And then, like, are we supposed to be laughing at this? And she died? It was like very weird, and now it's I don't know, it seems kind of okay, I guess.
I don't know. I've been going back and watching the really early seasons. Like I think I'm only up to season 3 maybe, and even now it's so dark and awkward. So many of the things that happen. I think even more so than when I originally watched it. It's
oh really?
Yeah, it's like, oh geez, oh how, like in one of the earliest episodes, it's like Kramer comes in and says, my friend Newman, he's trying to kill himself. I don't know.
Oh, that's right.
And he throws himself off this building, and like Jerry says something like, did you see him as he fell past, and sort of laughs. And we're talking about a guy throwing himself off the building.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, people die and like horrible things happen to them.
Yeah,
that's true. There was an episode later that was about there's some dark stuff. I won't even go into it. But yeah, episodes that I kind of forgot about, like go into some dark subjects.
And it's always there's that awkwardness and. I didn't remember feeling at the time, so it is a complex comedy and it's worth getting into. But we're sort of veering away from.
That's off subject, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. But
realized I went way off. Yeah.
still, it's recommended. It's still a good show. It's not a light, characteristic American sitcom. It's a cleverer thing. Clever.
Yeah.
But did have a bad ending, I thought, anyway. That's just my opinion.
The general thing is that the whole toxic, quote unquote, adjective that gets slapped on anything and everything we don't have a counter for. And, it's your get out of jail card by now.
It's a straw man.
Yes, you label someone toxic and then you're fine, you're good. You're home free. Yeah. And there's nothing you should do or correct or even learn from it. That's a bad thing. That's a bad thing to do, and I really hate that I see it happening more and more.
It's worrying. You have, sure, there's some kind of rationale for it, okay, but you have a lot of other fans sort of being counter, and they're saying, "Oh no, your opinion doesn't matter because you're toxic. You're too invested. You're toxic," and that's like cutting someone's, all their power out from under. Their arguments don't mean anything because they've got this label now, so nothing they say means anything because they're toxic. So we can ignore them. So that's dangerous.
Of course, that is the ostrich defense, really, burying your head in the sand. Because you might guard these people, but the fact will remain that you did write a bad ending, and that is going to affect everything else. And you saying that it's fine, everything is fine.
It's fine. It's all fine.
Yeah.
But
it's not going to stop the domino that you started.
It's not going to fix stuff. But I'm sort of saying that you have that cadre of fans who also, they're sort of going along with that. They're saying,
I'm not sure, actually, to be entirely honest.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Those guys are toxic. We're the good ones. We accept anything the writer says. The writer's God.
Actually, that is a little scary. It's like having robotic fans going, "Yes, master, we love master. Yes, give us everything." That sort of thing. But I don't think that a lot of these people are actual fans. They might be casual fans, or they might just be people that are on for the ride. Okay, a group is being labeled toxic. Let's jump on and call them toxic as well and have fun with it and be on the right side of history and stuff like that.
Look, I can see, how they have a point in some ways. Like when people like badger actors on Twitter and make them quit Twitter and say racist things against particular actors and stuff. Yeah. So that's quite an evil thing. And yeah, they're within their rights to label those people toxic because that's just evil behavior. So, but that's definitely not what we're talking about. That is like criminal kind of behavior. That's evil. Just being disappointed because something was badly written is a different thing and not related to that kind of viciousness.
Yeah, okay. People that do that are basically abusive by default. They will do that anyway to whoever they feel that they can target because, we have this... let's say this saying in Greece, when a tree falls, everyone comes out with an axe. So
yeah,
they are looking for those that drop the ball to go and take shots at. And I don't think that these people are right in the head or balanced. And I wouldn't call them toxic in the sense that they are just deviants. and they are psychopaths.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't
a
need to
better
call them
description. Yeah.
Call them what they are.
Yeah, they're evil people. And don't label them trolls or stuff like that, because that makes it almost cute, and that almost normalizes that kind of thing. It's not being trollish, it's being evil. That's what it's being,
The thing is, though, if you call them psychopaths, if you call them as they are, psychopaths and deviants and people with extreme behavioral disorders, then you don't have a shield against those people that aren't being psychopaths.
Yeah.
But still, like what you did with the story.
Exactly. So yeah, people tend to use the evil people, the psychopaths, the racists, the sexists, as a way to justify ignoring legitimate criticism. So
exactly,
we've got to get out of this this tendency about putting everybody in one of two buckets, good guys and bad guys, because that's not what reality is about. Sometimes,
and also people stop wishing that everyone gets cancer. Like, I hate this when I
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I wish you get cancer and die, you hateful bastard. Because you don't agree with absolutely everything I agree with. So you must be an evil, racist, sexist pig.
Nazi.
Yeah, Nazi. Even though you're not actually any of those things, you just didn't like the way this ended, or was, yeah. Oh, well, let's not get too far into the politics of it, because I hate that.
Yeah.
And that means...
the thing is that you don't, there is no toxicity.
Yeah.
In that sense. There is a spectrum of people, and at the edges, as in all normal curves, you will have the extremes. You will have the psychopaths, you will have the weirdos that are, never seen sunlight for a few years in their mother's basement, or you will find the sycophant on the other end of the spectrum. That will, drool and ooze admiration, even if you produce excrement. And
produce it. Yes.
These are the past three standard deviation people. You cannot put them together with main, plus 1, 0, plus 1, plus 2 standard deviations people. Your audience, they are the ones that actually buy your stuff. They are the ones that support your stuff. They are the ones that make things popular. The fringes are never the ones that make things popular.
Yeah. They're just the weirdos.
Yeah.
Oh well, we should wrap it up now. We're slightly over time, so
we didn't really touch on like a webcomic creator or a small-time creator or a beginner. It's different, right?
I mean, we did
handling criticism. And stuff like
we did in that. Every one of us is subject to this. Every one of us. And Tant said, in the past, she's had reactions.
Oh yeah.
Okay, right, yeah.
I have to say something. Didn't get the full negative reaction that I have gotten in my earlier stages, where I was trying to do things and I was told, to drop off a cliff or something with what I was creating, which is not this welcoming. But some of the criticisms that I got that I knew weren't valid, because I had the picture of the entire story in my head and I knew how it was going to develop, made me rearrange certain things in the story so that people would get the signal of, this is where we're going to go, and, wait, be invested in that because this is happening soonish. because of course I didn't, like now I update regularly people. Okay. There was this time where I didn't update regularly, and it wasn't right of me to expect that people would not draw conclusions from, the first 20, 30 pages or 40 pages of my, 300-page book.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I hate the way it was conveyed, and I hate the way of that it was very persistent and abrasive in the way that it was communicated. Now that I have, vented and I decide that I want to continue making the story, I'm going to make sure that people know the tone of the story and what the story is all about.
Okay.
And I have to say that it has improved the story.
Yeah.
I did listen to the toxic fans, and it didn't hurt me.
Oh God. Well, there
Don't
you
let
are.
like a critic stop you from doing your stuff and trying to do your comic. I mean, when it's not a massive property, like a big movie franchise, it is a different animal. You're trying to do something. I don't mean you, Tans. I mean talking in general to people who are in webcomic creators and stuff. Your toxic fandom might just be one person saying nasty things, and it can hurt and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you got to keep doing your thing, and not like there's a middle ground between like being stubborn and doing something terrible. That's where I do. That's where I exist. And then on the other hand, like pandering for, like, please like me, please like me. I do that too.
Yeah.
But there's a nice middle ground there where you like tell the story you want to tell because you're the only one who can do what you're doing. You're unique and like that's what you need to do. You don't like copy things to try to please people or just quit doing it when you want to because you don't want anyone to criticize it or whatever.
Yeah.
Keep doing your thing. You just keep going, and if someone says something bad, it's okay. If you're getting a lot of people like not understanding what's happening, or you're not getting the effect you want from your endings in particular, or whatever, then maybe you look at it, try to get better at it.
Well said. Yeah.
I have to say though, there is a tendency among creators, especially creators that are in for the long haul, to pay attention more to the negative comments than the positive ones.
Always.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Yeah. So that what I'm saying is, if I compare all the comments I have ever gotten without Moonlight, negative ones have been the 0.001%.
Yeah.
Okay. But that one, like that particular set of comments that I got that were very, very, I don't want to use the word toxic because I hate this word by now. They were extremely negative. And the way that the person was trying to communicate certain things was extremely negative, and it was very hard to wade through all the bullshit, sorry for the expression, to get to what the whole point was. Still, if it's not just a bashing of your work, after the whole negative feeling has faded enough for you to be able to handle it, see what it is that they have a problem with. Because if it is, they get the story and they don't like it, then that's their problem. If they are not getting the story that you are trying to tell, so there is a problem in communication of the story, in the way you are presenting it, maybe, that is a big maybe you need to see what else you can do to convey the story that you want to convey. It's all about what you want to do, whether that feedback that you are getting is because you are doing what you're doing the way you want to do it, where when that happens, you are good and discard everything. Or, this isn't what the reaction, the thing I wanted you to take from this, So I'll see what else I can do so that you can get it through your head
Yeah.
that this is where I'm going with the story. That sort of thing.
Exactly right. Yeah, it can inform you. So, yeah, listen to your critics intelligently, because they could give you some valuable advice. It's not always just haters. Oh, God, I hate the term haters even more than toxicity.
Oh my God, yes. It's on the same level. Like,
yeah. Haters are gonna hate. Okay. All right. Well, on that note, we should sort of finish up. So, thank you for listening to QUACKCAST number 429.
Thank you.
Thank you. How are we going to end this Quack? Oh, we're already ending it. We did it.
It's done. It's finished.
We all died in the end. We all died in the end.
Everybody dies.
What a twist. Ended.
I will say this, in my comic, like it's like a standalone series of individual stories, so I actually haven't had to do an ending, which is a nice kind of safe place to be. And with this QUACKCAST, it makes me think, like, okay, I had to end the series theoretically. How would I do it? And that is a scary thought.
Everybody dies.
It's tough to do. But you just gave me the answer. Yeah.
Oh no, it'll be a court case scene in the end.
That's right.
Oh no, I hate
and Abigail will sit on the Iron Throne.
Yes.
It was destined to be. It was destined to be.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be TK, to be honest. Like, he has what it takes, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Sit on the Iron Throne.
I think you're right.
Yeah, obviously. That's why Abigail has to do it, because no one expected her.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Now I called it, so he cannot sit on the Iron Throne.
Exactly. It's your fault, Tance. You ruined it for all of us.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, TK.
All right. Thank you for listening to QUACKCAST number 429.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.